Hello everybody, and welcome to my next video. So I have decided to go ahead and give kind of like a first impressions video on the first two episodes of the new Ahsoka TV show. If you have watched any of my other stuff where I review Star Wars, you know that in terms of the stuff that Disney has made, not a big fan of a lot of it for numerous reasons. But there has been a lot of hype around this TV show because the people are saying basically online that it's going to save Star Wars, and a lot of people liked Ahsoka from the Clone Wars TV show, so they were kind of excited for her to get her own series. So I decided to give it a watch, and now I'm going to basically give you my first impressions of it. There's definitely more to come, so potentially the quality of the show may increase or decrease depending on how it goes, but this is just what I think of the first two episodes so far. So let's go ahead and get into it. So the plot of Ahsoka, if you are not aware, this basically takes place several years after the fall of the Empire from Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. The Empire is in shambles and the New Republic is starting to take more control and establish themselves as a powerhouse in the galaxy. But there are also individuals out there who either are loyal to the Empire or are still not on the side of the Republic, including Baylan Skoll and his apprentice, which at first seem to be like Sith users, but it may not be. We'll have to see where the show goes, but basically they're Force users who are not Jedi. Their goal, along with some other characters in the story, is basically to find Grand Admiral Thrawn and bring him back as a powerhouse to bring back the Empire and start another war. So Ahsoka is basically on the search for the same map that will lead them to Thrawn, so that way she can get to it first and stop that from happening. So that's kind of like the basic plotline setup from the first episode and the trailer. So let's go ahead and talk about the good and the bad. Let's first start with the good in terms of things that I actually did like. So the first thing I'll compliment is the music. The music is pretty decent. I actually do like it. I like the music they play for the intro into the first episode, as well for some of the more slower paced scenes. I like the use of their instruments, and also the music for the credits for each episode. Yeah, overall the music seems like fine. It's the same thing I had with Loki. I didn't like Loki, obviously, if those of you who watch my channel, but I liked the music for it. The action is also pretty decent. I wouldn't say the action is phenomenal or like the best thing ever, but I would say it's definitely above the sequel. With Ahsoka, they kind of go back to a little more choreography. And while though I don't think it's perfect, I do think the saber fighting is decent. In regards to the acting, I would say it's like decent, like none of it is too distracting. You know, the good actors do the good performances, like Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who plays Hera, and Rosario Dawson, who plays Ahsoka. You know, they do fine, you know. I don't think their acting is superb, but I think that has more to do with the dialogue/direction more than themselves, because I've seen them act in other movies and I know they can do it. Personally, to me, I think they're just kind of held down by either the dialogue that they're given or from the scene that they're told that they're being directed in. Also, we have David Tennant. He plays the robots. He's pretty good, you know, like he does a decent job. And that robot is also not annoying like a lot of other robots are in a lot of the other Star Wars properties. He's there, he serves as a background character, but he gets the job done and he doesn't distract us from other things or becomes annoying to where I don't want to see him on screen. The effects and practical design on some of the sets were pretty cool. Like, for me, none of it looked really fake. There's been some shots in some other things that looked kind of more fake, but in this one looked actually pretty decent. Nothing threw me off in terms of the CGI. A lot of it felt believable and none of it took me out of watching the show. And some of the set designs are cool. My personal favorite one, at least of the two episodes, was the one in the shipyard where they're building the hyperdrive engines. It felt kind of grand scale. I think they did the scaling well. It felt like a very big place. And one thing I will say in terms of design, I really like the design of the costume for that like Inquisitor looking fellow that Ahsoka fights in the second episode. I know he has a name, but it's not listed on IMDb. He's not listed in the cast credits or on other sites. I don't know why. It may be because they're trying to keep him secret or something. And I know they say it in the show, but they only say like once or twice, and I don't really remember. So anyhow, I do like the look of his saber and also the look of his suit. It looks kind of not super futuristic. It kind of looks more of a suit from an older time. Also, I forgot to mention Ray Stevenson. He also does pretty well. I will say he definitely is doing well with what he's given. Again, like with the other actors and actresses in here, I think part of it is their performance is being dumbed down by directing / the dialogue, but I think for what he was given, he did a decent job at it. I think he did okay. So that's kind of mostly the good stuff I have to compliment. Let me talk about the stuff that I was not a fan of or that I had problems with. Firstly, in regards to the first episode, it starts off with letting the Ray Stevenson and his apprentice on board. I personally think that was kind of a dumb idea. Even like the commander guy said that he was still thinking this is fake and not legit. If that was the case, personally with me, I wouldn't even let them on board. I wouldn't even try. For that, just for the sake of security and safety. But what I even have more of a problem with was the fact that Baylan Skoll basically used the Force on like a droid lock. He basically used that to free, what's her name, Elsbeth. And, like, that to me kind of got understand because every other instance, like, where they're at a door that needs a droid, like a Jedi could not do it. They always had to get either R2-D2 or a droid like R2-D2 to unlock it and do that for them. That's not something they can use the Force on. So I just kind of found that a slight bit annoying. It's like, is this the first time? It's just like, does he know how to do this and nobody else? Is this something people can learn? Like, it just felt kind of like, well, okay, he can just apparently do that now and doesn't need a droid like every other Jedi or Sith user that we've seen before. And I did comment on the action, like I said, was fine, but there are some bits that kind of felt off, especially with Baylan Skoll, Ray Stevenson's character, when in the first episode, when they're coming aboard the ship, he's doing like lightsaber blocking, but he's kind of like holding it there for like 2 seconds and then switching, and then he's also going to another position after 2 seconds. He's not doing it fast, kind of how you see in the other stuff. He's kind of just holding it there, and then he moves it, and then he goes down. I found that off. So my main problem with both episodes is that I find the pacing of it to be quite slow, and slow for no good reason, at least so far. Like, there's a lot of stuff I like that is also slow, but there's a reason to the slowness for something, and there's something to keep you interested while it's doing that. In regards to these 2 episodes, I just think they made it slower for the sake of padding out runtime, because not much happens. I feel like you could cut a good 15-20 minutes out of the first episode of Ahsoka and not much would have changed. There's a lot of scenes of characters either just sitting and thinking, shot of them like walking slow, and it's very long. There's the beginning scene with Ahsoka when she finds the map to Thrawn, and she's like very slowly adjusting the stuff to reveal the map, like a little Uncharted puzzle. She does it very slowly, like really takes her time, and I just feel like it's slow like that for no reason. I don't kind of see the point for it to be as slow as it is. Another problem I have is in regards to the acting and the dialogue. Now, like I said, I think part of this is mostly have to do with the direction and the dialogue, not necessarily the actors and actresses themselves, because, like I said, I've seen them in other things where they act a lot better and have good opportunities to shine. But here, part of the problem is the dialogue, because the dialogue is written in a way just to make it serviceable, bare basics to move the plot along, and to give a very basic understanding of the characters and their motivation, if it's applicable at all. And because the dialogue is not really that deep or engaging, and because there's not much dynamic dialogue between characters, not much character development has happened either. Now, of course, you can say that there is much character development for them because of Rebels. And I understand that, and I have not seen Rebels, and that might be like a thing that's just particular to me because I have not seen it. I understand that these are characters from the Rebel TV series, and perhaps they maybe were fleshed out or had more of a plot line for them going on. But even so, I still think that even if I were to have seen the Rebel show or know about the Rebel show and the characters in there, I would still find this dialogue to be not really that interesting. It does kind of a disservice to making the scenes feel a bit draggy, to feel there's not much development or chemistry between characters, and also doesn't really develop the characters that well, at least for these first 2 episodes. There's also some cringy parts in this, like the whole Sabine bike chase scene was, to me, very cringe. The music was terrible in that part. That was very poorly music. Like, the thing is, it's like they were trying to show off like how cool she is, but the only thing she did in that entire scene for like the 3 or 4 minutes it lasted was basically go under a ship. That's it. That's all that happened. And in terms of the dialogue in that scene, there's not much that happened. It was like, again, the basic bare bone minimum to say what the characters are saying and thinking and to advance the plot. Nothing much deeper than that. But yeah, that bike scene was just cringe to me. That I would have probably taken that whole thing out. I probably would have just shown her going on the speeder to the tower. There we go. That's it. And completely get rid of that scene, because I just find that completely not matching to the tone to the rest of the show, and just find it distracting and cringy. So another thing that is also bad, that seems to be kind of a recurring theme the last couple years, is the arriving a lightsaber stab wound. In the first episode, basically Sabine and that apprentice bad Force user, we'll just call it that, have a lightsaber fight, and the bad Force user gets an upper hand and stabs Sabine, but she survives and is completely healed the following day. And it's like, what's with this? Like, the fact is that lightsaber stab wounds have been known to be fatal for pretty much almost all the time. Like, I don't know what's with this. This is the third time someone's been stabbed from Disney Star Wars and has survived the wound pretty much fine to the next day. We first had Grand Inquisitor, who took like a few episodes to get better to be able to come back. Then we had Reva in the same show, the Kenobi show, where she gets stabbed by Darth Vader, and then she just kind of just walks it off. She doesn't even get medical treatment. She just kind of walks off and deals with it and just covers it up with a blankie. And in this one, Sabine gets stabbed and is pretty much healed and ready to go the next day. Qui-Gon Jinn is rolling in his grave. Can you imagine if basically Obi-Wan went over, it's like, oh no, Master, you're stabbed, and Qui-Gon's like, actually, I'm fine. Just give me a day, I'll be okay. Also, another thing regarding characters, so far, at least with the Force users, and this could be due to the fact of just the first 2 episodes being out, but so far the villains have not been too engaging. They basically want Thrawn, and in terms of Baylan Skoll, he basically says he wants power, which is very cliched. I hope they go into much deeper stuff than that in terms of what he wants and his motivation and how he became motivated to what he is. Because if he's just like a power-hungry person, it's just, I feel like it's going to be just cliched and he's going to be completely forgettable. And one last other thing I'll say is that Sabine, you know, in the second episode, there's this whole thing about Hera telling Ahsoka, like, you should bring Sabine on. She wants to help. She can be of great service. And Ahsoka's like, no, she's not ready. She needs to learn to be ready. And then basically a few scenes later, Sabine sends her a message, and she, like, has cut her hair and put on her Mandalorian armor, and she says, I'm ready. And then basically Ahsoka's like, yeah, I guess you are, and then just takes her. It's a very bad payoff. It's very just nonchalantly, it's like, I'm ready now. Okay, let's go. So that's pretty much the notes I have for here. So overall, what do I think of the show? I just think it's meh. I'm so far not super engaged, and so far don't find a whole lot to grasp onto. I think I'll continue to watch it to see where it goes, to see if it gets better or worse. I don't have hopes it's going to get better. I feel like it's either going to be the same or probably get worse. And I just find a lot of this lacking. And honestly, the trailer got me a bit kind of interested in this show, but so far the show has not serviced, or at least satisfied that level of interest I have that the trailer kind of got me. I do hope it kind of gets better, because I do think that there could be interesting backstory with the villains, and I also, like I said, I like Ahsoka from the previous shows, from the Clone Wars, so let's just hope it gets better, but based on the track record of the previous shows, I have a feeling it may not. So anyway, those are my first thoughts and impressions on the Ahsoka TV show. I hope you enjoyed hearing them. If you liked it, go ahead and leave a like. If you want to see more, consider subscribing, and I hope to see y'all in the next video.